ladies and gentlemen, and my dear viewers. Welcome to In Conversation with a very special guest who's here with us today. Many of you know him as an educator, as a pioneer, as a trailblazer, and the former director academics of CBSE. But for someone like me, he's been a teacher, he was, he is, and always will be a teacher. So let me please welcome to In Conversation with to Bala sir, G. Balasubramanian, who many of you know as Balaji. So thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Rashmi.
So you must be wondering that we have been in many conversations with Bala sir. What am I going to talk to him today that is going to be very different from what we have done before? If many of you are not aware, he has authored a book which is Walking with Vishwa. And today we are going to be talking to him about this book. Let's understand and get to know what this book is all about and what his perspective or what his intention was when he authored this book. So let's directly dive into the questions that I have for you. I have a bunch of questions that I've ready for you. So let's start with that. First of all, the title says Walking with Vishwa. Who is Vishwa? I'm very sure many in our viewers, who are present in our viewers, would want to know who Vishwa is. And how did the thought of authoring a book from all the conversations you've had with him even come about?
Well, that's a very interesting question. This question has been asked by many readers who have gone through the book. Vishwa, to me, is a character who believes in India, who believes in the Indian culture, who believes in the capacity of an Indian and the heritage that we have inherited over the years. He believes that this country has got a great hope, there is a great possibility for a change, and he wants to be a catalyst to change. He wants to be a harbinger to the change. And so when I conceived a character, Vishwa, these were all the ideas that I have been nurturing in my mind, and I gave a meaning and a shape and a life to that idea in the form of Vishwa.
Wonderful. So, like I said, I have a bunch of questions, but before I get into my questions, I want to know what your favorite lines are from the book that you've authored.
I strongly believe that one who doesn't celebrate the soil of the country cannot celebrate anything in this country. In those days, we used to say, Janani Janma Bhumishcha Swargadapi Gariyasi, mother and motherland are holier than heaven. To me, the motherland is represented by the soil, because everything that grows in this land is organic, inorganic, everything that is a contribution of the great nature. So when you celebrate the soil, you celebrate the nature, you celebrate yourself because you are a part of that nature. You are what you are today is because of the nature. You are what you are because of what contribution this land, this soil, the Mother Earth has given. And therefore, I think one who doesn't celebrate the soil cannot celebrate anything.
So you've basically covered the whole book, the theme of the entire book. But if I have to push you and give me like a few lines that are your favorite lines from the book, what would those be?
I have strongly felt that line which I admire is that one who cannot lead himself cannot lead anybody else. Therefore, the whole focus of this book has been to nurture every reader to become a great leader. Because very often we link ourselves, we correlate ourselves, we connect ourselves with many people all around. But the one person who suffers without connection is our own self. So therefore, my effort is to make every reader to link with himself, to connect with himself.
It's very interesting that you make that statement, because my next question links to that. Viewers, what he's basically speaking of is self-leadership, and that is covered extensively in your book. So there is a specific line in your book which I specifically liked. It says, entire tree is within a seed. It's a quote, if I'm not wrong, by Rumi, I'm not really sure. It says, entire tree is within a seed, For those who for those who visualize the power of the tree within the seed, the essence of leadership becomes clear. So, despite human advancement and many of us, we still don't understand the value of self-leadership. So, could you give us a few pointers on how to actually value leadership and self-leadership and how to utilize self-leadership in our respective lives?
See, every human being is born with some competency, some talent, and some, skill. The objective of any process of education is to facilitate that skill, that talent, so that the individual is in perfect harmony with the environment in which he lives. And he is not only a survivor, but he is one who perceives growth and is able to contribute what best he can in his lifetime. And therefore, I think, when I look at a seed, the seed is invisible, but the contribution the seed has made to the growth of the tree, and that fact that every seed is responsible for producing thousands of seeds is what the leadership is all about, right? Being who you are doesn't matter, but whatever you are you able to contribute to the society or contribute to the fellow beings all around to give them a sense of hope, to give them a sense of light that they can grow and they can shine in their life, and thereby you act as a seed. In other words, I'll put it in a very simple way, in a very philosophical concept. Every microcosm has a macrocosm embedded in it. And every macrocosm is nothing but a composition of several microcosms. The relationship between a microcosm and macrocosm is the relationship between the self-leadership and the global leadership.
Absolutely. I completely agree with the concept of self-leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, those of us who feel that we are not leaders, we should never ever do that to ourselves, because all of us, like he said, there is a tree within every seed. So we need to understand the potential that we have and the amount of contribution that we really make to others' lives. So self-leadership, I think, is absolutely important. So the next thing that I really caught on to in your book was you constantly speak about reflection and introspection. While I do observe, when we travel, I do observe many people just lost in thought. I don't know if people actually know the value of reflection and introspection. How do we make that a habit in our lives, first of all, and what is the value of it for our own growth?
Well, I think reflection is fundamentally a process of scientific thinking. You look at what you have been, what you have done, what are the good things that have happened, what have been the achievements, what have been the failures, and therefore you evaluate your performance against your competencies, you evaluate your performance against the limitations that you have, and thereby you identify the competencies which have not yet been exposed and the opportunities that you have to expose your competencies to achieve greater heights in life. I have quoted in the book a very interesting episode of Edmund Hillary when he went to Mount Everest first time when he could not climb that. He came back and looked at the Mount Everest and said, "Hey, Mount Everest, you think that you have defeated me, but remember one thing, you cannot grow bigger than what you are, but I can grow bigger than what I am." I think reflection helps you to grow bigger than what you are. Reflection helps you to dissolve all your fears and give you an opportunity to examine the possibilities and knock at the door of the future with confidence and conviction. So I strongly believe that everything that you do must have an inbuilt reflection. Every morning we need to reflect that, what we can do. Every night we have to reflect on what we have done.
Absolutely. I completely agree. The value of introspection and reflection is very important. And even if we sometimes find ourselves going down a rabbit hole and thinking that we have not done much, I think doing it objectively is what matters the most.
Doesn't matter. Sometimes reflection will tell you that there's a huge gap between what you have done and what you are capable of doing. There is nothing wrong. Failure is also a part of life, but the ability to re-engineer the failure and convert it into a process of success, into an opportunity is all about life. I don't think that any human being is a failure, right? It's only what he does is a failure. So we need to understand the difference between the intrinsic potential of the individual and the performance that he does. Both are different, right? Normally in life skills we talk about learning to be and learning to become. In our process of trying to become, we may be successful or we may be failures. But in the process of being, we celebrate ourselves. I think my focus is on celebrating the being rather than evaluating the being against what is becoming.
Absolutely. So you've spoken about the value of learning lessons through life experiences. And in the book, in conversation, you also compare it with formal education that we have out there. So I want to know, how can one in a school setting implement the lessons that you've learned from your life experiences?
That's a very interesting question. As a matter of fact, when I go to schools, I do talk to children on this particular thing. You see, learning is not limited to a school. Learning is a lifetime process, 24/7 process, and 365 days process. It is not conditioned by the fact whether a school is open or closed, and therefore you have switch on the learning, switch off the learning. Sorry, it's not learning. Learning is a lifetime process. And as a matter of fact, in the Indian education system, the focus on informal learning was very high as against the formal learning. With the British model that is coming through, unfortunately, we constrain the process of learning into a few, capsules of knowledge, which are formalized, and therefore the great opportunity for informal learning is, has been curtailed. I think that's very important. If, for example, early in the morning, when you look at the sun, right, that the amount of learning, the opportunity that you have is absolutely abundant, which cannot be capsuled in, say, in a textbook. Therefore, in early days, focus was on informal learning, more on formal learning, less. But unfortunately, over a period of time, it changed. But today, the informal learning through the social media and informal learning through other impacts that the technology makes on life is something great. I believe that nearly 70% of all my children, what they learn is informal, 30% is formal. Therefore, the challenge for my teacher is that how do they facilitate informal learning to be contextualized with the formal learning. I think that is not only for students in school, it matters for you and me, in the sense that how we convert our informal experiences into potential learning, so which can facilitate. For all that, what you need is to keep your eyes and ears open, keep your all senses open, because learning is a sensory experience and not merely a treat to the eyes through a textbooks.
Wonderful. So you speak about jasmines in your book. First of all, I would like you to tell our viewers who are these jasmines. Second of all, I would want you to speak of how do we identify such jasmines in an organization.
I must tell you something very interesting. The reason I quoted jasmine, this idea came to me when I was at Madurai airport. I came from Madurai, I spent a lot of time over there. And Madurai is known for the jasmine. Madurai jasmine is supposed to be highly fragrant and is also exported over there. So I always believe that if somebody has a basket of jasmine kept somewhere, the fragrance travels all the way to a long distance, right? You can identify that. I think the same applies to even human beings who are good, who are competent, who are performers and who radiate positivity. Their presence is acknowledged even at long distances. I think leadership is all about being that fragrant. It's not. Leadership is not about the number of people you command, the number of people who serve you or service you. The leadership is about the good ideas, concepts, and thoughts that you radiate, which permeates into the society, right? Whether they have seen you, they have not seen you, all right, whether they have directly experienced you or not. So the reference to Jasmine over here is to say that a leader should be what do you call radiating and giving the fragrance of his existence to the universe in which he is operating.
So how does a leader identify such jasmines in their organization?
Well, I think you have to keep your mind and eyes open. It's something like this that we are always trying to find what a person is not capable of rather than what one is capable of. This is a very wrong mindset. It is also said that when I judge others, I judge by what they have done, and when I judge myself, I judge by what I am capable of doing. I think that's the difference, right? So, when you are in an organization or when you are in a group, you will find people who are selfless, who are passionate, who are committed, who are disciplined, who are contributing, and sometimes these people will be invisible, silent, but yet highly productive. Just like what we say, empty vessels make much noise. And I think should not be carried away by people who make noise and who succumb to exhibitionism. I have referred in the book about exhibitionism, right? Because many leaders tend to, make noise and exhibit their presence and just by the charisma that they have. But there are people in every organization who contribute silently, and the ability of a good leader is to identify those jasmines who send the fragrance to all around. I think that is a competency that one has to learn through experience, and then with the ability to see positivity in the others rather than their negativity in others.
I think there is another aspect that I have observed in my interactions with people is that even if you have experience, one needs to have the humility to understand that the jasmines in our organization could be far more capable and not feel threatened by them, because their potential and nurturing them will actually take our organization and our team forward. I think many of us forget and fail to recognize that for these
You are
jasmines.
absolutely right. Sometimes, there are people in an organization who are very dominating and who make noise and then, who showcase themselves as a heroes or heroines in the organization as capable of. But there are people who sit silently and then do magic, right? Normally people who do magic are, very silent and they believe in their competency and not don't look forward to any external support for them. And they are so humble and so, they exhibit humility that they don't look for a praise from somebody, a pat from somebody every morning. There are people in many organizations, who want a word of pat from the boss every morning, every evening for everything they do. But the real workers who are passionate and committed, they don't wait for a praise or something. The greatest joy they get is the achievement that they have made for themselves. I think they are the jasmines of the organization.
Absolutely. So let me now go into some other pure concepts that you mentioned in the book. So you speak about resource management, process management, and waste management. How do we or how can we implement this in an educational institution or in a school setting?
Well, in most organizations, and of course in our school systems and college and institutional systems, I find that these three are very painful to say, because the resource management and waste management to me are very important. if you have a kitchen full of resources, but if you do not know how to cook, what is the use of all those resources there? Similarly, in an organization, a school educational system, you have so much of infrastructure, acres and acres over there. But if you are not able to produce children who can become leaders, who are proud of themselves, who develop a self-concept and have some self-respect for what they do. And I think one of the factors that in India, when RBACC is that we have been through the British colonial system, have been good to execute orders, but we don't celebrate self-esteem. And I think that's the way that we need to develop. And therefore, I think the resource management, one we talk about effective use of not only the infrastructural resources, but effective use of intellectual resources in the organization is very important. When I say that one of the major problems in our education system is that they are not able to find the difference between subject and knowledge. Say physics, chemistry, biology. We all dealing it with knowledge, right? The child knows the physics, child knows chemistry, but he doesn't have the knowledge component of it. So I really think the disciplines are resources, but they need to be cooked very well to have, interdisciplinary learning, multidisciplinary learning, use of technology appropriately, because most schools have got showcasing technology to a large extent, and there is more misuse and abuse of technology than use of technology. I think that's exactly what I would say when you come to resource management, and finally it should lead to effective human resource development, right? For example, that to me, people very often say, how do we manage time? I always say that time doesn't manage us, only we manage the time, right? So we should have the capacity to put hard work into time rather than time into work. Lot of us say 10 to 5 o'clock we work, therefore we put time into work. We don't put work into time. And I think these are the issues which I am really concerned. So when you go to a village and see the farmers, for them it is not 9 to 5, it is not 3 to 4. It is for them, they put work into time. And most of us working on a desk jobs, we put time into work. This has to change.
Absolutely. So there is another quote, rather something that you explain about in the book. You talk about leadership being a journey and not a destination. This is, let's face it, it's a truth that all of us are aware of. I will assume that all of us are aware of this. But despite that, we get caught in our day-to-day activities, in our day-to-day life, and we lose sight of enjoying that journey, and we get fixated on what the ultimate outcome has to be. We don't enjoy our journey at all. So how do we ensure that we enjoy the journey, learn our lessons, drop whatever we have to drop, and move forward? How do we do that?
See, the question is, whenever you do a job, any work, you read, you write, you work on a computer, if you are going to link that to a produce, a product, a process, then you are conditioned in your thinking by the external factors rather than the kind of work that you do. That is why even in Bhagavad Gita, when people said, Karmanya Vadikara Sema Paleshu Kadachana, that the greatest joy is to focus on the work and not on the result. Right? Today we are mostly result driven. We manipulate the process to get the result. That's, it's very pathetic. Or all that what we need to do is that the happiness of a work doesn't come at the end of the work. It comes every micro minute, micro capsule of the work that you do, right? So when you enjoy doing the work, right, you will find that you are liberated. Your learning is immense. Your ability to connect with the object of work is very, very high. And I strongly believe that when you talk about leadership, leadership is a journey because leadership is all about empowering yourself every day. You cannot remain a leader 5 years from now if you don't equip yourself. To me, tomorrow you cannot be a leader unless otherwise you don't know what has happened today. Therefore, leadership is all about a continuous journey of learning, empowerment. So, when the question comes between leader and leadership, what should you celebrate? I would celebrate leadership rather than the leader because leaders come and go. Leaders can be by positional leaders, opportunistic leaders, and transactional leaders, incidental leaders, accidental leaders, so many of them there. But then, when the question comes, when Gandhi and Gandhiism, Marx and Marxism, which is celebrated, Gandhi is known for Gandhiism, right? So, people who live a philosophy, right? Vivekananda is remembered more for the contribution and the service he has done. He was one of the typical examples of servant leadership, right? So I really think that you celebrate leadership and not being a leader. And leadership is a journey. It is a continuous process from till that time you breathe your last.
So nobody here is telling us to not be result oriented or not bother about the results at all. While we need to be focused, for which we need an ultimate outcome or a goal or a result, that does not mean we don't enjoy our day-to-day, our journey towards that goal. I think the moment we stop enjoying that, that is when we stop enjoying our work, our jobs, everything. I think only when we enjoy that is when we like to come to work. And I think we achieve far more and far better because of
You're
that
right,
as well.
you're right. See, what you raised a very interesting point is that we celebrate success. We don't celebrate excellence. Success is an event, excellence is a journey.
Correct.
Right? Therefore, leadership is a pursuit of excellence. Right? Leaders are conditioned by the success and the failures that they get through. So I think there is a good corollary between leadership and pursuit of excellence, human excellence, right? Natural excellence.
Absolutely.
Right?
So you also talk about how leadership and entrepreneurship is interconnected. You speak that, in fact, the character Vishwa, he makes a statement saying every leader must be an entrepreneur and every entrepreneur is a leader. But in reality, that is not the situation. That is not how it is. So can you tell us why should every leader be an entrepreneur and every entrepreneur be a leader? Or at least, I'm assuming this is more the mindset of a leader in entrepreneurship. So why should we do it and how do we do it?
See, entrepreneurship is a way of thinking, a way of living, a way of negotiating with life. Entrepreneurship is the ability to see an opportunity, to find a pathway, to take appropriate risks, to manage the challenges and conflicts that you get through, and walk towards a success and find a market or find a community that celebrates you. And a leader has almost the same purpose, but what has happened is a leader tends to use opportunities, right, available to him or available to him through other sources rather than engage with opportunities. Okay? So, a leader fails to take advantage of the entrepreneurial opportunities that he has, right? And I think that's where you make a difference between leaders who grow and leaders who remain with the title of a leader. There are people who somehow, for one reason or the other, get the definition of a leader, get the position of a leader, and they sustain it probably through a life and they don't grow out through it. But there are people, right, who have been who don't have a degree, but who have worked for a common cause, have grown to the highest possible level, and when they breathe the last, the whole universe celebrates them. Okay. So I think entrepreneurship does not mean, right, you start an industry or you start a business, social enterprise, engaging with the common causes. That's also entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is basically what do you call seeing an opportunity to offer your skills, competencies, and your intellect to your task that waits for you, right? And therefore, I really think that they go hand in hand, and you cannot have an effective leader who is not an entrepreneur.
Right.
And an entrepreneur has to have all the qualities of leadership if he has to sustain his growth as an entrepreneur.
Wonderful. I think the interconnectedness of both are very important. So, there's a character in your book. His name is Muni.
Yeah.
So, Muni actually reminded me of my great grandmother, and she was also illiterate according to our today's norms. She was illiterate, but she was an absolute fearless and courageous lady. And Muni is also similar, and he has so much of knowledge, immense knowledge, which he imparts into these youngsters without an ounce of ego. What I want to know is, what kind of impact has Muni had on you?
That's a very interesting question. I have, at one place in the book, I have called Muni as a walking university, and another place I call him walking encyclopedia.
Correct.
Right? And when you go and cut across the country, by God's grace, I have had the opportunity to travel all the way from Srinagar to Kanyakumari, almost all states and very deep districts and rural places. And when I have seen these people working together, they may not have a degree, they would not have gone to a formal school and all that. But the kind of wisdom they have, I use the word consciously, wisdom, not only mere knowledge, right? The ability for them to handle the problems, the ability for them to, take up challenges, right? Both natural challenges as well as man-made challenges. The way they manage the huge families, the way they mobilize the resources is absolutely mind-boggling, awesome. They did not have a management degree from this one. And I think Muni was that kind of a character I can see, because I strongly believe that one to be educated, you need not have a degree, because all people who have gone a degree are not necessarily educated by the way in the earlier Indian mindset that we talked about. Education, we unfortunately compare education with literacy. Education is much more than literacy. And like Muni, there are thousands and thousands of characters in every single village who have had experiential learning. And I tell you, the kind of learning that they have through experiences is sometimes, brilliant, and much more than all that anyone could have learned in the school or in the college. If you go through the book, the way Muni, facilitates even Vishwa. Vishwa calls him that I go on learning with Muni almost every day.
Yeah.
Right? Though Vishwa may be an MBA. So we have people in our families, as you rightly pointed out, your own great grandmother, I've had in my family also. People, probably they have not gone to a school. But I lived in a family where there were 19 people. We did not know how the resources came and how they were managed. So I think, it is very important for a younger generation to be introduced to people like Muni. And there are Munis in every house, every home, every village. And I think we need to learn from them. We need to respect them. We need to celebrate them. That's what the Indian culture has been. That's what the Indian mindset has been.
Wonderful. So there is one more chapter in your book which is all about inclusive leadership. So I actually like the entire concept, and I do believe in that. So do you think inclusive leadership can create far more leaders in an organization than any other style of leadership that is out there?
Yes, you are right. As a matter of fact, in one of the chapters I have written, a good leader is one who generates leaders. Right? To one who says, I am the leader, I disagree. I may say, you are a leader. There is a huge difference between being the leader and a leader. Now, A good leader is one who is able to identify what is good in everybody, what is the talent is in everybody, and how every person can be allowed to grow, manifest, and achieve greatness and heights in their life. Leadership does not mean you lead a community. Leadership is something where they identify who they are and then they excel. When you look at the sky, anybody would say the sun, which is a star, is the leader. But there are hundreds and thousands of stars over there twinkling around them. They are probably much bigger than the sun. Probably they are more illuminating than the sun, but they are at distance doing their job silently. In every organization, in every home, there are people who are like those stars, twinkling silently, day in and day out. And the job is that when the sun, sets, the stars get an opportunity in the night. They glow. Similarly, when the leader is not there, you should let other people glow. That an organization is not meant to be led by one person. So that leads to a very interesting concept called participative leadership. Right? A good leader is one who works with everybody, right from the bottommost cadre to the top. Everybody identifies him. He is the man with whom I should work. So what you said is an indicator to the concept of participative leadership. And I think organizations which have got participative leadership are highly interwoven, and therefore that X is there, Y is there, not there, doesn't matter. Organizations scale up high in spite of people being there or not being there.
That takes me to my next question, sir, because through this entire book, you have spoken of different styles of leadership, from barefoot leadership to participative to charismatic, transformative, authoritative, servant leadership. There are so many other types that you have mentioned. I'm not even mentioning all of them here. If you had to pick top 2 leadership styles that you believe that any and every school out there, especially in our country, should utilize in their schools, what would they be? Top 2.
The first one I'll take is barefoot leadership.
Okay.
Barefoot leadership doesn't mean you walk with a barefoot. The barefoot leadership is something where you say that you are one of those stakeholders in the system who are right at the bottom level. The barefoot leaders are leaders who reach out to people to solve problems. We have had many people, like I can give an example of Vinoba Bhave, who came for the for lands for the people
Bhutan.
who were there, Bhutan, and then we had people who worked on bringing water to desert areas. There are so many people available. So today, it doesn't mean that you are going to be at the lowest. I look at barefoot leadership as a concept, a leader who reaches out to others to solve the problem, right? You can't say, I am sitting in my table, the problem has not come to my notice, the problem has not come to my table, right? Probably when I look at last 2 days I've been looking at the newspaper, the interviews of Sridhar Vembu, who looked at. I would rather look at him like a barefoot leader, because he has gone to the people in the village who have never had an access to a computer or who had never access to that, and he has been able to transform a company in a rural setup, because we talked about the software industries in California, taking of a software industry, ruling the world right from Tenkasi or some other place. It's a transformation. I think we need people of that kind who will reach out. I think so. One preferred is one barefoot leader. Okay. Second, which I love, is participative leadership, where the leader doesn't simply sit in his room, but then he engages himself with every employee. So the pain and pleasure of every employee is his own, and therefore every employee finds that he has somebody to depend on. He or she has somebody to solve the problems. I think that creates an ownership with the organization. A participative leader creates owners of the organization and not simply employees. Right?
Wonderful.
I think that's what my
top 2 leadership styles. Okay. So the next question is on growth mindset, and you speak about that a lot. So how does farming, or how can we extrapolate lessons from farming with respect to growth mindset that can be utilized in our day-to-day lives?
A seed is a great example of a growth mindset. The very fact that seed is able to open up and then face the rain and the shine, and then it weathers itself in spite of all the challenges it has, and then grows into a beautiful flower and then a fruit and a tree, and then offers itself hundreds and thousands of fruits and seeds for the next generation, indicates that it sacrifices itself for the growth of yeah, an environment. And growth mindset comes only when you are able to face the challenges. I remember a very interesting story where a farmer goes around in a village and throws a couple of seeds here and there, and he finds that there are two seeds which are very close by. And what happens is, one seed tries to open up its shell and peep outside. The other seed says, well, hey, what are you doing? Don't show your face. You will have to swallow the sand. The other seed doesn't listen. It goes up. There is a bit of sun. I told you, you have to weather the face of sun, then the heat, then a bit of rain. And every time there is a sun and the rain, this seed opens up and grows. And this seed, I tell you every time, don't do this, that. And now one day the seed grows up into a beautiful tree, and nice fruits are hanging. And this seed, which is the sand, I told you, how much weight are you bearing on your head, right? And that's the time a small hen walks nearby, picks up the seed and walks away. People who don't see the opportunities, who are willing to take up the opportunities, they get cursed themselves. They are flown by time into time, right? People who open up, challenge, accept challenges and grow, they stand testimony to time, right? I think, therefore, a growth mindset is possible for everybody, right? And that is, comes oftentimes with reflection. We started with reflection. When you start reflecting who I am and how you grow, right? What are the opportunities I have? I think that will help you to grow. Even, the fundamental question, even in philosophy, is who am I? Right? That has made great sense. And if you put that question logically, you will bring great scientists and great technocrats.
Absolutely. I think one of the major aspects of growth mindset is being open to change.
Yep.
While many of us want to grow, we don't understand that we have to change if we have to grow. And that is probably something that brings so much of discomfort. And because of that, all of us refrain and stop ourselves from
That's
growing.
a very typical example
Yeah.
between a chameleon and a butterfly. A chameleon goes on changing the color, right? Typical for change. And then what does a butterfly do? It breaks out the shell and then starts flying with colors. And therefore, all that, you must understand the difference between change and transformation. We should not be merely changing. We should be transforming ourselves every day. Growth mindset is all about the transformation that we seek in life.
Correct. So there are so many interesting concepts in your book. I think most of the questions I've asked today, I've told I like this and I like that. But there is another one that really close to my heart as well. You speak of idea managers and creation of idea managers or a team like that in an organization, which could be a precursor maybe to an R&D team or a part of an R&D team. How do we, first of all, why is it important to dedicate some time for such thought in an organization? And how do you even create a team like that, which is really important for an organization?
Well, I strongly believe that idea management has got to be an integral part of any organization. As human beings, we get hundreds and thousands of thoughts flowing around our mind. And whenever we walk around somewhere, either near a flora or fauna, or go up the hill, we get so many ideas. Why not this way? Why not that way? So our observations and our experiences, our interactions give us lovely, fantastic ideas which could be implemented. But what happens is we let these ideas go. They come and they go. We don't, give an opportunity for them to be conceived, kept as an embryo in our own mind, and then allow it to be conceived over a period of time into a thought and into fruitful action over there. I think very many organizations, both in terms of factories, in terms of financial or any other organizations, all their experiences, especially when they encounter failures, when they encounter challenges, they will find, oh, this idea could have worked over. At least they must have a kind of a documentation of these ideas that sometime or the other it will be able to, help. You take a simple example of your lateral thinking process, when Edward de Bono came out. The simple idea that Portia got, that you will have a pound of flesh but not a drop of blood. It was just a parallel idea that we got. So every organization, has potential for that. I have seen that hundreds of new innovations have come, all because of that momentary ideas that you get and you put them into action. And therefore, every organization, immaterial of who they are, they should have a separate unit in which ideas are stored, processed, and then they are experimented, contextualized, and there are opportunities to be, unless a person thinks, unless a person generates ideas, you will not have a future company, right? What instead of saying why, you must ask why not.
Why not? I think I'm going to take some credit here, because in our organization, everybody is encouraged to have an idea, document of their own. And in our brainstorming sessions, we do not look with judgment on any idea. While we practically evaluate the idea, we are not judgmental about any of the ideas, which encourages everybody to speak out more. And I think that has helped us a lot when it comes to our own growth and innovations within the products and offerings that we have.
In the whole universe, when you look at various kinds of operations, out of every 100 ideas people generate, 95 plus ideas are useless, are not contextual, or not experimentable. But then you have only 2 or 3 ideas which change the world.
Yeah.
We change the universe. So unless you think 100, you will not be able to get those 3. So celebrate ideas, whatever they are.
So coming to the next concept, you speak about learned helplessness in this book. First of all, how do you identify learned helplessness in ourselves, and how do you get over it?
See, learned helplessness is a very interesting concept, because introduced by Martin Seligman, who is a great psychologist, who was a book written on the positivity. He was one who introduced positivity as a undercurrent of psychological persuasions, while we have been largely for years and decades thinking about the negativities as the undercurrent. So he says about the learned helplessness. He says all of us are capable of doing many, many great things, but we are conditioned. We are conditioned by a culture. We are conditioned by an environment. We are conditioned by the people around. We are conditioned by our own mindsets. We are conditioned by our own past experiences of the success and the failure. And therefore, we draw certain parameters to ourselves, certain fences around us, and thereby limit our growth. Like, for example, when we use, I am 50 years old, mujhe aage kya padna hai? Why should I study? I am aged, I can't do this. So you start, creating patterns of thinking in your brain, by which your brain defeats you.
Yes.
Right? It saps all the energy, possible energy in your mindset. right? A typical example he talks about is an elephant tied to a pillar in the temple, right? So it is tied by a rope, right? And then the elephant has got so much of energy, it can just break down the rope and come, but it believes that I have been tied. Similarly, most of us get tied that, we don't want to think, I am an MA beard, I am a teacher. This beard tells you that you are a teacher, you don't want to discover. So is an engineer, so is a doctor, right? You might have done an MBBS and MD, but the kind of medicines and other things that the markets have introduced are different. So that takes you that learning is a beautiful journey, day in and day out, that you are going to break out the helplessness that you have, estimations that you have about your own self.
Done. So there is, you speaking about public relations officer. And in your book, you say that by the way, I completely believe this. So every single employee, every single team member is your public relationship officer, is what you say. And it is extremely important. But how? It does not happen with all the employees or every team member. It happens with very few. So when we go out of the organization, we forget that we actually represent the organization wherever we go. So how do we try to get every single employees and team members buy-in on this mindset of you being the public relationship officer of your organization or your school?
It's a very simple thing. See, for example, if I go to a country abroad and I do something which is not palatable, which is not acceptable to that country, they don't say Balasubramaniam has done it. They say an Indian has done it.
Absolutely. And we've heard so many cases like this.
Isn't it?
Yes.
So I am identified by a country. I am an ambassador of my country. I represent not my own sentiments, but I represent a set of sentiments, cultural behaviors, and what you call thought architectures that are present in this country, right? So is every individual working in an organization, immaterial of the fact whether you are working in a school or a college or in a factory or that. So long you work there, you represent that organization. You are identified by the organization, right? So, for example, this not only goes to an organization, it goes with professions. What we talk about professional etiquette. So, as a teacher, when I went to a film, my teacher has come for a film. You understand? So, every profession you are expected to do certain things, not expected to do certain things. So, you are an ambassador of that profession. You are an ambassador of that organization. You are an ambassador of that culture, right? And therefore, you are a public relations officer, right? And therefore, I think it's very important for us to be holistic, that we are not piecemeals, that I am at home this, I am elsewhere. So you have to carry the holistic culture of who you are, wherever you go, you must carry it on your shoulders.
Wonderful. So I still have a bunch of questions for you, but the format, I'm so used to quizzing, but the format is different of these questions.
Yeah.
So the following questions are all rapid fire questions for you. The quiz host in me is coming out. I cannot help it.
Enjoy.
So I need you to give me one-line answers or one-word answers with the upcoming questions that I have for
Sure.
you. Okay. So the first one is, what's the one line that best defines this book?
The one line that defines this book is that there is hope in India. There is a future in India.
Wonderful. Hope and future in India. What else do we need? Wonderful. The next one. What inspired you to write this book?
That there are hundreds and thousands of invisible leaders in this country who have got to be recognized and who have got to be illuminated.
Wonderful. The next one. What's the one misconception that people may have about leadership?
Leadership, people think that goes with authority and power, and they are free to do anything that they want.
Wonderful. So the readers, if they have to remember only one lesson from your book, what should it be?
Self-leadership.
That is my favorite one as well. I do like that concept a lot. If you have to define leadership in one sentence, what would that be?
A great leader is like a drop in the ocean.
Wow. All right. If one person who has been, if you have to talk about one person who's one biggest influence in your leadership journey, who would that be?
My mother.
Okay. What's a leadership mistake? And I too am interested to know this. So, what's a leadership mistake that you have made early on in your journey? And you would probably not want to make it.
Yes, I thought that my reach is very limited, my competence is limited. Someday I broke out and I wanted to do the best what I can do in whatever I do.
So basically, your learned helplessness is what you realized, and you
my
broke your
learned
learned
helplessness,
helplessness.
yes.
That's wonderful. The next one, sir. One book other than yours that every aspiring leader should read.
I think the story of Mahabharata is good enough to teach you different types of leaders, different types of leaders, different concepts of leadership.
Wonderful. We actually do come back to India. You still are within that purview itself. That's really nice. The next one, sir. If you could give your 25-year-old self one leadership tip, what would it be?
Trust yourself.
I think all of us need that, whether you're 25 years old or not, but we do need that. One quote that you live by.
One quote which I think is that every day is a new day, every experience is a new experience.
Wonderful. One piece of advice you would want to give to every aspiring leader today.
Be confident of yourself and always look at the sunshine. You know, the shadow is only in the back. Look at the sunshine and you have a future.
Yeah. If there is a shadow, the shadow is there because there is
there's
sunshine.
a part of life.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
once you stand before the sunshine, you will have a shadow.
Absolutely. The next one, sir. I'm going a little towards your personal likes and dislikes now. So, if there is a song or a poem that you read or you go back to for motivation, what is it? Which one is it?
Zindagi ek safar hai suhana.
Arey wah, that's a very nice one. The next one, sir. What's the one thing that readers would be surprised to know about you? We're revealing secrets now.
Well, I think I'm capable of doing more than what I'm doing.
Okay. I think you're putting most of us to shame by saying that, sir, but I do accept your answer. The next one. One thing in your bucket list that you have not yet ticked and you would like to.
Honestly, I wanted to be a good singer.
Okay.
But unfortunately, right from my youth, my voice did not cooperate with me.
So today there are many different styles of singing. So I think I'm very sure you'll be able to do it.
Well,
So at some point, I'm sure you can do that.
At least when I speak, there are audience. When I sing, I think they should not run away. But yes, there is always a new day ahead. Yeah.
All right. Maybe next time I introduce him, I will add singer to the list as well. We'll see what happens. The next one, sir, if there is one thing that you hope changes in people who will read your book, what would that be?
I'm very confident that most of people will start believing themselves. I think one factor is that there are hundreds and thousands of agricultural graduates in this country who are looking for jobs outside, thinking that there is no future in India in agriculture. But the future of the country is going to be in agriculture. So at least my agricultural graduates across the country will believe that they have made the right choice in their life.
Wonderful. And one last question from me, sir. One message for all our viewers out there from you.
You are great. believe that you are great, you will achieve greatness.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. It has been while I have read the book, but having this conversation with you has been a very eye-opening and illuminating for me as well. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
being
Rashmi. I
here.
enjoyed talking to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't read this book, you should definitely give it a try. It is a simple, story-based, narration-based book, which will it has so many lessons for you to learn. So I'm very sure you're going to enjoy this. And beyond that, if you have anything to ask Sir about the book, do comment on this and we will ensure that we will get back to you with the responses that you would like. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and stay tuned because we will have many such interactions, and we hope that we will be able to bring in a lot of value additions to your life and to your journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.